2024 was an incredible year for Bitcoin, and everyone is eager to find out what's going to happen with Bitcoin adoption in 2025. Stay tuned to find out in this video. There are a few key events that could drive Bitcoin's adoption amongst peers even more, but there is a clear winner ever since we've now seen the results in the US election and the next administration with Donald Trump is going to step in. We've seen a clear trend that the US could potentially introduce a strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's already a bill for this proposed by Senator Loomis. They want to buy 1 million Bitcoin in the next 5 years. The US currently holds around 220,000 Bitcoin, so there's still a lot of room for them to buy. It's not only big news in terms of the biggest economic power in the world buying Bitcoin and using it as a reserve currency, but also it could potentially drive the adoption amongst other nation states. Because whatever the US does with the US dollar and its monetary policy, other nations tend to follow suit as well. And the only real liquidity and increase in liquidity you've seen in the Bitcoin network throughout the years now have been with the ETFs. Nation states, however, are a totally different level because of the vast amounts of Bitcoin they would be buying. Again, maybe 1 million by the US in the next 5 years, so roughly around 800,000 from their current holdings, if they convert that. And there could potentially be other nations who want to do the same as well. And that increase in buying pressure and on the other hand, that increase in eyes on Bitcoin would also help amongst adoption. And I've mentioned them previously quickly. The ETFs could also be a major story in 2025 and beyond. They've been the fastest growing ETF in Wall Street history. And if you've looked at the last 12 months now, you've seen an increase in adoption amongst institutional investors and Wall Street firms alike. Taking a closer look there, if you actually use the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF and compare it to its gold ETF, which also was one of the more successful launches back in history, you would see an increase in interest, you would see an increase in liquidity into these funds, and obviously an increase in adoption as well. So if 2024 is anything but a benchmark, 2025 with increased adoption and all of these benefits of a potential strategic reserve could also drive further the interest by ETF investors. Then the third point is Bitcoin scarcity itself. Every 210,000 blocks, we do see the Bitcoin halving that reduces the amount of Bitcoin that miners are mining each day, and that is inevitably also available on the open market. If you have increased buying pressures from whether nation states, ETFs, or regular investors, and you have less of the assets to actually buy, all it does is it creates a certain FOMO effect. People actually want to get in because in the next halving there will be even less Bitcoin to buy each day, and therefore this could also drive adoption. And we also have to talk about the Bitcoin mining industry because there has been a fascinating phenomenon happening in the last 4 years. More and more miners, energy companies, and data centers have begun realizing what a huge potential Bitcoin mining has. You can use excess energy or remote areas with 100% renewable energy sources and actually use that energy source instead of wasting it. This resulted in 57% of the entire mining network being driven by renewable energies, a vast difference to other industries in comparison. Increase in energy companies who see this potential could also help increase Bitcoin's position amongst the markets. And you need to look no further than Asia, where in Japan you've seen a state-powered subsidiary from the energy company who is actually using 100% renewable energy. More increase in these numbers and more increase in interest in mining as a resource for energy markets could also drive up adoption. And when I already spoke about the national reserves, I also have to speak about the potential of companies following MicroStrategy's playbook. This worked immensely well in the last 4 years, and with them now being part of the NASDAQ 100, the 100 biggest measured by market capitalization companies on the NASDAQ, that increase and that interest in that strategy could also increase amongst other big tech companies. And who knows, mainly if it now works on a smaller scale with small cap companies, it could also potentially drive adoption amongst a big company or even a FANG company who would use portions of its balance sheet and convert that to Bitcoin. And lastly, we also have some positive news out of Europe. The continent of Europe has been actually the first one publicly to come out with a regulatory framework. The MiCA framework is now known and in effect since 2025 to actually help Bitcoin businesses and other digital asset businesses to set up shops in Europe and to have a regulated and solid framework to operate in. That increase and that certainty would also help in establishing new use cases, new businesses, and therefore more adoption in Europe, and could also help the European economy to boost up and therefore have another benefit from Bitcoin. But what do you think? Have I missed anything? If so, leave a comment below and let me know. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video and throughout the year 2025.